Now joining us by phone, Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, who made some remarkable comments about Abraham Lincoln on Meet the Press this past Sunday. Mr. Paul joins us by phone from Texas. He is headed to Iowa later today. Mr. Paul, thanks for being with us this morning. Some of your supporters were expressing some frustration that you would suggest that Abraham Lincoln started the Civil War, and then that also Abraham Lincoln went to war just to enhance and get rid of the original intent of the Republic. Would you like to publicly take this opportunity to take back those remarks?
Well, I wouldn't mind discussing them, but you can't say I do it, I don't. You know, what I find utterly remarkable is I don't ever remember giving a speech or writing an article on the Civil War, and yet this was brought up and said I was quoted as saying something, and I did respond. You know, we have a war going on in Afghanistan, Iraq, possibly in Iran. We have Pakistan blowing up, and Turkey is invading Iraq. And then somebody brings one word up about maybe I said something.
Well, let's ignore what you maybe said. Let's run the tape for our viewers, give you an opportunity to refresh your recollection. Here's what you said on Meet the Press on Sunday. Here it is.
I was intrigued by your comments about Abe Lincoln. According to Paul, Abe Lincoln should never have gone to war. There were better ways of getting rid of slavery.
Absolutely. 600,000 Americans died in a senseless civil war. No, he shouldn't have gone to war. He did this just to enhance and get rid of the original intent of the Republic. Every other major country in the world got rid of slavery without a civil war. I mean, that doesn't sound too radical to me. That sounds like a pretty reasonable approach.
Mr. Paul, would you like to take that back? I mean,
I think it does sound reasonable. Why would you defend killing 600,000 people?
Well, here's why. Because Abraham Lincoln. Let me ask the question, then I'll give you plenty of time to respond. Every historian will tell you that Abraham Lincoln didn't start the war. The Confederates fired on Fort Sumter after South Carolina had succeeded. Abraham Lincoln was simply trying to keep slavery from expanding. What was he supposed to do after the Confederates fired on Fort Sumter?
Okay, you haven't read the right historians. You ought to read Tom D. Lorenzo's book, The Real Lincoln. Lincoln was not that anti-slavery. He has this famous quote that everybody who's read history knows about. He said, "If I can save the Union by keeping slavery, I will." And if he says, if I can save the Union by getting rid of slavery, I will. He was not strong anti-slavery.
You are absolutely right on that, but here's my question then.
That makes my whole point.
Here's my point. If Abraham Lincoln went to war to save the Union, how can you say that he went to war just to get rid of the original intent of the Republic?
Have you ever heard of the economic reasons for going to war? I mean, do you know who Lysander Spooner is?
Tell us.
Lysander Spooner was the greatest abolitionist from Massachusetts, and he supported the South because he understood this. Read Lysander Spooner on treason. He explains this, and he fought Lincoln even before Lincoln became president, making this point. Lincoln is part of the Hamiltonians who wanted a strong national government, and this was an opportunity. I mean, why can't you conceive of the fact that every other Western nation got rid of slavery without a civil war? Why have you ever? Do you know what John Quincy Adams did every time he went to Congress after he was president? He introduced an amendment to the Constitution to make it very clear that this slavery would be abolished. What is so wicked about getting rid of slavery without killing so many people?
Let's take it a step further then. How long, Mr. Paul, how long should slavery have continued in the United States? Dr. Paul, how long should slavery have continued? Assuming you're right, suppose we shouldn't have gone to civil war. Should slavery have continued for 5 year, 10 years, 50 years? How long?
I think it should have been stopped at the time of the Revolution. Because
but given reality in 1860, what was Abraham Lincoln supposed to do?
Well, Abraham Lincoln didn't need to kill so many people and run a civil war. He could have just gotten rid of slavery.
I don't think
wait a minute. Even before the Civil War broke out, there was a constitutional amendment to abolish slavery, like in 1860, which did not get support from Lincoln. That's what you got to read. You got to read your history. I think you're absolutely confused on what Lincoln stood for, and that it was necessary to kill all these people. You can get rid of slavery. It's been done that many times. But the total irony of this is the distraction in a campaign that I'm running for in this esoteric point which came up on purpose, and I may not even ever have brought it up in the first place. Of course I'm going to respond, but this whole idea of avoiding the catastrophic war that is going on right now because you want to refight a war 150 years ago that neither of us can change or deal with. This is a historic discussion.
Mr. Paul, I am perfectly happy to move on if you will say right now, Abraham Lincoln, that we had the Civil War to save the Union. Did he or did he not have the Civil War to save the Union?
Yes, you read.
Okay.
You read. Wait a minute. You read De Lorenzo, and you will find out that saving, it was economic conditions. It had to do with the Republic. It had to do with Hamiltonianism. At the same time, the slavery, he was not strongly anti-slave, and it was a tool for him to go after the South. It was secession that was counted. The Northeast, the New Englanders strongly believed in secession. Secession was believed in up until 1860. It was to totally demolish the concept of secession. This is why abolitionists like Lysander Spooner were so strong in support of the South, because they understood the Constitution and the concept of the Republic. So if you don't know that, I think you should read history.
I tell you what, you read Lorenzo's. You read De Lorenzo. We'll read everybody else who says exactly the opposite.
Okay. You're not even brave enough. You're not even brave enough to read De Lorenzo.
Okay. Jack Jacobs. You're
talking to the wrong guy. Did you say he was a crackpot?
No. Well, actually, you did use. You can go there later.
Sure,
but let's bring the conversation to today, from 1860 to perhaps today.